一次就好，我带你去看天荒地老，在阳光灿烂的日子里开怀大笑。
Hi everyone, I'm Andre and I make videos about China. Today I'm going to share with you my 2-year Chinese learning update. I will also tell you the best and most effective ways to learn Chinese. I made a similar video about a year ago, but since then I've learned a ton of new stuff that can help you in your Chinese learning journey. At the end of the video, I also have an excellent opportunity to share with you, so stick around until the end. Also, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. I appreciate your support. Okay, let's get into the video. 首先，我不是学生，我来自澳大利亚，但我住在中国。我在中国生活了2年了，我的工作是一名英语老师，但是我一直利用空闲时间来学习中文。经过2年的中文学习，我已经达到了中高级水平。今天我想和你们分享我的经验和我认为最有效的学习方法，好吧？You need to know why you are learning Chinese. Is it to speak to your Chinese partner, to talk with some Chinese friends you made, to better understand the culture, to get accepted into a Chinese university, do business in China? I started learning Chinese because I'm generally interested in languages and I like talking to people who don't expect me to speak their language. Whatever the reason, it must always be in the back of your mind. So when you have those times when motivation is low, you can remember why you started. If you break down Chinese, then you have speaking, listening, reading, and writing. In my last video, I emphasized speaking, listening, and reading, but not writing. However, a few people commented that writing is also valuable as it helps them remember characters. My answer to this would be, if you have the time, go ahead and learn to write the characters. But if time is limited for you, I still do not recommend learning to write by hand. The best thing to memorize characters is reading, because reading is faster than writing, and if in the time you learn to write one character, you could have read over 100. You also don't need to be able to write characters. As long as you can recognize them, then it's enough. The best thing you can do in the beginning is to focus on speaking and listening. These will be most useful and you will also get the most enjoyment out of them. Another thing is formal Chinese and informal Chinese. Formal Chinese is found anywhere where a formal tone is needed, primarily written material, but also used on formal occasions, very similar to English. The only times you may want to strictly learn formal Chinese is if you're only going to do business with China or plan to study at a Chinese university. Informal Chinese is what you hear Chinese people use daily, and it will also be the most useful for you. Informal Chinese is what you want to focus on. The most enjoyment you will have with language learning is being able to speak to others in their mother tongue. And for that, you need to learn the words and phrases that people use daily. If you learn a bunch of formal words, you'll quickly find out that not only is it incredibly difficult to remember, but no one uses those words regularly. You must prioritize Chinese in order to get results. Learning a language will require constant repetition of words and sentence patterns until your brain has this kind of aha moment and it all makes sense. Chinese in particular you will find incredibly frustrating at times because words and expressions will not make sense to you. Especially idiomatic expressions which are deeply connected to Chinese culture can at times be incredibly difficult to grasp. When we learn Chinese, we are always thinking with our mother tongue, translating sentences directly in our head. And the problem with this is that many sentences cannot be directly translated. Often the notion that is conveyed has a different meaning than what you actually want to say. That's why it's important to see many example sentences of words until you understand how they are used. When you see something or hear something in Chinese, look it up in the dictionary immediately. I use the dictionary app Pleco on a daily basis to look up words, and I use Baidu to look up sentences. I find this method works really well because it helps me learn words faster. You can also not be scared to practice your Chinese with Chinese people. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. I get the tones and word order wrong all the time, and my sentences don't sound very authentic, but this is all part of the process. Since Chinese people live in most countries of the world, you can easily go and find them to practice your skills. You could even venture into a Chinese restaurant and order in Chinese. Chinese people are generally very welcoming of foreigners learning their language. A fascinating phenomenon that I have witnessed is that when you make a new friend or start dating someone from a different country, the language used from the beginning will likely be used throughout your relationship. It's very difficult to change this course of action later on, and I've seen it countless times with my friends here in China who are dating or married to a Chinese person, and they will almost always be speaking English to each other. Don't let that happen when making Chinese friends or getting a Chinese partner. Insist on speaking Chinese at least half the time. Another thing is that many Chinese people, especially younger people, like practicing their English and are usually the kind of people who want to be friends with foreigners. So don't let them take advantage of you, no matter if they keep talking in English. You keep speaking Chinese. The way I do it is that I never speak English, I always use Chinese. Even if their English is better than my Chinese and they insist on speaking English, I still won't budge. My girlfriend speaks better English than I do Chinese, but because I insisted we only speak Chinese from the very beginning, that's what we've gotten used to. This approach can seem daunting if your Chinese level is not high enough, and you will feel like you can't express yourself like you can in your mother tongue. However, it is one of the best ways to learn a language, to be forced to use it. At the end of the day, you need to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, getting the motivation to keep going will be difficult. If you have to rely on discipline, your chances of success are slim. Something I have noticed about other foreigners here in China is that they're not very interested in learning Chinese. They lack the enthusiasm and the drive needed to learn it. I personally think it is very difficult, but I still enjoy it a lot, especially having interactions with Chinese people. Okay, now I want to share with you what I think are the best resources for learning Chinese, the fastest and most efficient way. The first app you need to get is Pleco. This is just a dictionary app, but it has some other cool features as well, such as a flashcard organizer, short stories, and an OCR reader. With the OCR reader, you can scan Chinese characters and it will show you the meaning of the character exactly like it would if you had searched it. I use Pleco basically every day. If I see a new character I don't recognize, then I look it up. If I overhear my colleagues say something in Chinese I don't know, then I also look it up. Next is Super Chinese. This app is extremely good and I could not recommend it enough. It basically teaches you Chinese from start to beginning. You can do an AI level test, which will tell you your Chinese level, and then you progress through the levels. The vocabulary is all according to HSK books and the dialogues are superb. They are all dialogues which you would encounter in real life, and the team at Super Chinese have done a really good job at making them. I really recommend this app. You can set it to 15 minutes a day if you like, or 30. You will learn a lot just by doing 30 minutes a day on this app. Look, I've spent 11,000 minutes on this app. Super Chinese is also a much better choice than Duolingo. Duolingo is nowhere near as well built as Super Chinese. You really need to check it out for yourself. Lastly, HelloTalk. If you're someone not living in China, which I'm sure most of you watching this are not, then HelloTalk is perfect. It's a language exchange app and you can go on there and easily find people to chat with. The app is great because it has a ton of features like auto-translate and it can show you the pinyin on top of the characters. The people you meet on this app are all very serious about language learning and you can voice or video call them and do a language exchange. It's a great way to practice what you've learned. Get HSK 1 to 4. They are really good for building a foundation, but 5 and 6, I don't recommend doing them because it's just a ton of formal Chinese and boring stories not useful for daily life. Only study 5 and 6 if you're going to study Chinese at a university, as it will be an entry requirement. I'm currently using Developing Chinese and New Target Chinese. These textbooks specifically focus on spoken Chinese. If we're talking strictly educational, then there are some great YouTube channels out there for learning Chinese. One of my favorite is Free to Learn Chinese by Liudan Laoshi. She has so much free content on her channel that you really should check it out. If you want to watch something entertaining and suited to you, it could be difficult because you really need a high level of Chinese to watch most Chinese dramas and TV shows. They speak fast and use a lot of colloquial expressions. The exception to this could be teenage dramas, which generally have a easier to understand Chinese. You could watch kid shows like Peppa Pig, but I think it could get boring after a while. The best way to learn from watching TV shows and dramas is to understand at least 90% of the content. It will be challenging to follow along with the story if you don't. Watching TV shows and dramas is something you can only start once you reach an intermediate level. Okay, I want to tell you about something really cool. A huge problem us Chinese learners have is that when we don't recognize a character, we don't know what the pinyin is for that character. This makes it really frustrating because in order to find the meaning, we need to know the pinyin so we can type it into a dictionary. However, the problem is all Chinese apps don't have pinyin next to the character, and many apps don't allow you to copy paste characters. Even if they did, it's a very tedious method. However, cry no more. I have found a solution to this problem. We all know that phones have a feature to add a Chinese keyboard to their phone. But did you know that some phones have the ability to add a special font with pinyin on top of the characters as well? In my phone, I can go into fonts and I can select from a bunch of Chinese fonts. Here, I've just selected a font with pinyin on top. Now, this font will display in every single app, and it has helped me so much with using Chinese apps. Look, I can see all the pinyin for every character, even on WeChat. It's probably the best thing I've ever found. You can check your phone if it has the ability to do this. I have a Xiaomi phone, but I know that this function is not available on iPhone. A tutor can be good for staying motivated and better understanding grammar. These days, many Chinese teachers specialize in teaching foreigners, so they know how we think and the mistakes we make regularly and can quickly correct us and keep us on track. I personally have only had a few tutors in my 2 years of learning Chinese. Almost all my Chinese is self-taught. But I recently hired a tutor because the Chinese I'm learning now is quite high level and I like having a teacher explain things to me instead of trying to figure things out myself. If you have the means, I would highly recommend getting a tutor. It would help if you also told them your goals with the language and they will make a plan for you. However, getting a tutor is not necessary. You could easily do it yourself if you have the motivation and drive. Now that COVID is over and China is issuing student visas again, why not come to China and study Chinese and experience a unique culture and fantastic scenery? While you're here, you will make many friends, you can travel, you can see all the amazing sights China has to offer, and you will learn Chinese. It all adds up to an unforgettable experience. If this sounds like something you would be interested in, I've got 2 schools I want to share with you. The first one is in Shanghai. It's called LTL. And if you're someone who likes big cities but still being able to experience China, then this is a school for you. I studied for 6 weeks at this school last summer when I had holidays, and words could not express how grateful I am to the teachers at LTL. The teachers at LTL specialize in teaching foreigners Chinese, so they know all the mistakes we tend to make and they know the best way to correct them. They also organize excursions and activities for the students. If you want to go to Shanghai and study at LTL, there is a link for their school in the description below. The other school is called Keats, and it is located in Kunming. Kunming is located in southwest China. It is a fantastic city with perfect weather all year round. There are some amazing cities nearby like Lijiang, Dali, which you can go visit while studying in Kunming. I went to Kunming and all these cities last year, and it was awe-inspiring. So this school reached out to me to give you a special deal if you want to go study in Kunming. If you're interested, you can use the link in the description below. That's all for this video. I hope you found some value in it and your Chinese studies see immense progress. See you in the next video.